everyone, my name is Poochie and today I would like to talk about a Hetaipseity game that I just finished playing for a Let's Play called Hetaipseity. It was made by the creator Lilica, is what she goes by. She also goes by Lovi, but I have a habit of calling Romano Lovi sometimes. So for now, we're just gonna go with Lilica just in case I do slip up and, call Romano Lovi for less confusion. Anyway, I just finished playing my Let's Game for the game. And to appreciate just how good this game is, because oh my god, I absolutely loved it, I decided to make a review about it and point out a few things that I really liked about it, some things I want to maybe talk about in depth a little more, especially like why I enjoyed the game, and also some things that I would have maybe made like a little changes if it was my game that I made personally. Again, this game is great as it is, so just take it as a grain of salt. An opinion from like somebody, nobody like me. Hetaipseity was a game I believe was said to be inspired by a role play, which is great because, me as a role player, I know many ideas come from role playing with other people and, collaborating ideas. And, if I'm remembering correctly, and that is the case, it really does show if it is. Because, how fleshed out many of these characters are is something I'm going to be talking about much later as well. The game is, it's not long at all. I think I spent like just under 5 hours playing it myself. And that is with me looting and searching and like talking with the NPCs and spending a lot of time just not really doing much that I had to be doing. But overall, the game was really worth it, and it was a really great game. It was worth the time, all the time I spent in it. So, for the plot of the game, according to the Tumblr post, which is what I'm going to talk about first, you can download the game from the Tumblr. It's on Lilica's Tumblr page, and it states the plot as the following, which I'm going to just read off right off the post. It says, the game follows the story of Italy and Romano as they are stuck in a world meeting building with 2P5 nations who are hell-bent on turning them into 2Ps as well. But as it turns out, Italy and Romano can switch between their 1P and 2P easily. The main objective of this game will be to turn everyone back into their 1P self, discover the true enemy who turned the nations into 2Ps, and to get out of the building alive. So that's the plot of the game that's written out on the Tumblr post. I believe one of the good points in the game is how easy it is to understand the plot. People who have been in this fandom for long enough tend to know what the 2Ps and 1Ps are, the difference and all that. And the new people who don't can just, easily search for information now and get a really good, decent amount of information off the several headcanons and the posts, like, all the wikis and fandom pages that are made up to, by the fandom about the 2Ps. 2Ps are basically just recolors of the original characters that were, kind of posted by the Hetaipseity creator, Himaruya Hidekazu. I guess Hidekazu Himaruya would be the English name. I just went off the Japanese one right here. It's a habit. Anyway, the fandom has, like, the fandom was the one who put the personalities on these characters, other than, a small hint from Mr. Himaruya stating that, he imagined something like, them being part of the mafia. The fandom made him to what they are basically. They're basically OCs, or original characters. Mostly it's cringeworthy, if I want to express it that way, as it does involve a lot of evil, depression, murder, mental illnesses, and overall dark themes that just kind of tend to affect and attract the young teens of the fandom often enough. And sadly, because of that, I honestly do not have the greatest image of the 2Ps in my head in general. For the sake of this review to make sense, for the new people who don't understand what 2Ps are, just keep in mind that the 2Ps are the fandom personalities. The 2Ps are like the characters of recolors that the fandom have put personalities into them. This means that if anybody has a different idea of a 2P personality that's not a part of the fandom, it can be just as canon as the other fandom ones are. People can make 2Ps whatever personalities they want, honestly, and claim it as their own canon, and there's no really right personalities per se for 2Ps. So, with that in mind, back to the review of the game. This wonderful game. The plot of this game really does take some time to get to know. Like, it does take a lot of time to get to the good, like, the meaty part of the gameplay, like the whole two P's and the dark and all the great loveliness of it. I don't want to spoil it too much, but I might have to for the sake of it. But anyway, it might also be because I'm a looter. I do play a game by clicking on like a lot of things and wanting to find items and a little bit of information like spread out through the game. Like I do like to talk to the NPCs walking around because they do give like a good like feel of the atmosphere of like the game, of like the scenario that they're put in, the plot, the what do you call the narrative, the setting of the game the game is put in. I'm stuttering a lot, I'm sorry. I'm trying to explain things as I'm going and it's not really working out. I have a list of things I want to talk about, but anyway. Another point that I do like to get about this game is the amount of work that's put into the backstory of the characters, especially Romano and Italy. Or more specifically, because they're the one that have the backgrounds of the story. And I'm going to talk about them more when we get into the characters, but there's a lot of work put into them in terms of explaining how they become the two Ps and that they are, and the reasoning of why they're able to switch them into them from 1P and 2P and back as easily as like the others can't. And by putting these sets backstories into play as like a playable part of the game, they add more content and like gameplay for the player it's always great for my books if there's more content to play in the game instead of just the characters talking it out. You get to actually experience it and understand how the characters are feeling without having to read all about it. Show don't tell. There is, however, one thing that I want to point out about the plot of this game that may be a negative to some people, and that is, it does start with a world meeting scheduled. And yeah, Hetaipseity games in general do have this weird thing about the world meetings. It's like it's the easiest excuse to get the nations into like one area, one building. And you can just toss any nation you want into it and call it a day. Just say, hey, this is the characters who are having a meeting, so they're there. And then just move on to with the story. But like in reality, it can become some of a negative to some players. Not to myself again. I've seen a few complaints that have been going around about Hetaipseity games and world meetings. There are like different ways to gather characters to one spot other than world meetings, and it can be like a vacation, a visit, like a hobby meetup, or like like a party. So like the fact that it starts with a world meeting. I've just bit my tongue. It starts with a world meeting. It can be unfortunate for some people, but in my opinion, personally, this game isn't the one to put the blame on that apartment because like a lot of Hetaipseity games are guilty of this as well. So it's not fair to judge just one game with that. Moving on, I do want to talk about the characters. The characters are very well thought out. They're very fleshed out for the game. They do tend to focus mainly on the 2Ps, or like in this game they call it the corrupted states, especially for Italy and Romanos. But which instead of 2Ps being a different character altogether, like a lot of games do, and some games do have them switch back and forth, but a lot of them tend to have them as different, just like a different being, an alternate being, not one person having multiple personalities. It is a change of pace to have them, the latter just change personalities. They switch according to this game, for the setting of this game. They switch into them when they're angry, they're stressed, they're triggered, or whatever. It really depends on the character. But while most of the countries cannot control the switch, Italy and Romano can, and they do so at will in this game. So they're kind of treated as like a special case in the game. Which, yeah, it makes sense. Given the backstory they put in place, and also, the fact that they're main characters. So, you gotta give them a little bit of extra, a little specialness to just let them stand out. And like this is where the good writing comes into, because it can give us the backstory that can explain the reasoning in a decently believable manner. Again, it's a fan game, so like it doesn't have to be completely it doesn't have to fully make sense. As long as it's believable, as long as it's creative, and it makes sense in my head, it's good in my books. So, like, the characters I mainly want to talk about in this game are the Italy brothers. I also want to talk about France a little bit, and Germany, and Spain, in terms of the main cast. Um, I'm going to put the Italy brothers aside for now because I want to talk about them last, as I do have the most to say about them, with them being the main characters of the game. So, the first one I want to talk about is France. France is an interesting case when it comes to this because, from what I've seen often in like the 2P verse of the fandom, he's usually very sluggish from what I would think, like kind of depressed, like overall a downer. Again, I kind of keep my distance from 2Ps regularly, so I'm sorry if I get this wrong. It's just like the image I have of him. And because Francis 2P is not in this game for too long, there isn't really much comparison I can give, but he does seem overall much more motivated by the plans given to him by the mastermind of the game, which makes him less, kind of, I won't say dull, but a really sluggish character to get through. Next, I want to talk about Germany. To be honest, 2P, I like the Germany's 2P the fandom gives is not my favorite by far. The fandom I've seen kind of tends to make him this abused little lost puppy who's like following Italy around and this just kind of blinded by love. Again, it's the image that I have when just going through these posts. And like once the game and like in this game, he's also kind of loyal to the mastermind, but it's not because of love. It's more due to like the magic and like him thinking that he owes him something, and that's kind of put in place, which makes him, it's that kind of way. This puts him in like a very interesting dynamic, at least in my eyes, as when he approaches Italy, it's not exactly out of love, like at least not from Germany himself. It's more of him like reliving what is already gone from his past, and like for Italy to come to realize like that's a big part is like a big plot line of the game. So it works out in my books. And then there's Spain. Spain is an interesting one. To be honest, like Spamana's my OTP, and like, but even then, I don't touch the 2P as often. I'm not actually all too familiar with how 2P Spain's portrayal is in the fandom, and I actually didn't even bother to look it up because again, it's not my point of interest. However, I do have a friend who roleplays 2P Spain, and though I know from like several times that said friend, I still love him. Yeah, they stated that their portrayal might be like a different from the fandom, and but at this point, it's the only one I can go off of. So it's the only one I know. And like in this game, 2P Spain's portrayal is one like a very possessive nature, overly confident, kind of full of himself, kind of egotistical bastard who even calls like Sworgan Sealand brats, and like which honestly I couldn't help to laugh at, to be honest. I don't know if I actually was heard in the recording, but I remember just laughing to myself. And like I like all the traits that I just listed about him in this game because it does show like the dark side of Spain as the canon characters hinted at having. With that, like the fandom kind of seems to forget sometimes altogether, and like the way the game has this plot in place, it can be seen that like yeah, the power hungry nation that like that side that they refer to as the corrupted state, that dark side in which like nations who cannot control their urges is like it's part of the 2P, and like Spain is a character that canonly has like he's been stated by Himaruya that he does have a dark side. He has a scary side, and when angered, he's supposed to be terrifying. And the way that this 2P Spain in this game talks to Romano, in that like the possessive, like this intimidating aura that he gives off, just mwah, yes, I love it. I love it. And I think Lilica did a wonderful job, like an amazing job showing that in the game without making it have to be all about, blood and death and all that. It's just like, yes, yes. Um, so like moving on from that. Next, I'm going to be talking about Italy. I'm going to be saving Romano for last because I do have the most to say about him. Not much of like the game character himself, but I have a lot to talk about that character overall. But yes, I am biased. But anyway, Italy's 2P is the one case I would say that I've had quite some experiences with in the fandom. Like in the fandom, they tend to make him like overly evil, overly like manipulative, and like very aggressive, and he's just he's very happy to stab, like both literal and like emotional. He'll like stab you physically, and he'll also like stab you in the back as like friendship wise. And like it might just be the image I have, yes, but like that's what I've seen the most with the fandom. And but like then like because I'm a role player, again, mainly in the fandom more than anything, I do also come across many like 2P Italy interpretations as well. And honestly speaking, like it can go into one of two categories, these characters. They can go into this the one that we know that I just described, the power hungry, stab happy. I have a knife and I'm gonna cut you up and laugh at you while you bleed kind of 2P Italy, and like, and then there's the Italy who's just kind of like the other part of the roleplay fandom who's just like 2P Italy's he's just not as bouncy. He does have an edge to him. He does carry a knife, but like he's not gonna just stab you out of random for no reason. And like, how do I say this? Like the main 2P Italy I roleplay with is like the like more the latter, and like he's the one that comes to mind like first for me, obviously. But like, he's my but he's more or less like just drinking a lot, and he's just like he's just so done with his brother. He's just trying to keep the family from bickering. But like, yeah, I feel like in terms of this game, I feel like the 2P in this game is like between the two that I've just mentioned. He's like right in the middle. He doesn't stab for no reason, but he still does. But it's not just because he's evil. Is probably what I'm trying to say. More because he's like he turns off his emotions to protect himself, but at the same time that makes him lose control. But he also knows that like the state will help him stay focused and collected when like needed, instead of the usual hey Germany don't do thing, like the crybaby we often see for like the other games or like the anime at that or the manga. And like in my books, the way that this Italy is portrayed in this game is a plus. It's like a good one. It might not be for everybody because some people actually, they like that. They enjoy that Italy who's like quick to be evil, quick to stab, yells at the little puppy dog guy 2P Germany when he just walks by or whatever. But, for me personally, I prefer when he's not as trigger happy, like more down to earth. And I think this game like really balances that out well. Now, last one I want to talk about is Romano. I just clap my hands. I'm like, yes. But many times in this roleplay, like not this roleplay, but this Let's Play, I'm sorry. I just bit my tongue. Many times in this Let's Play, I say that Romano's my favorite character. And it might be due to that, but I hate the fandom 2P given to him with a passion. I really do. The Flavio character. And that's a character that I cannot stand. And that's the character who started me, like, it started off with me hating the fandom 2Ps in general. He's the one that made me want to step away and keep away from the games that have 2P in them. I did so just to avoid that character. I'm not going to go into detail of why I hate that character specifically because, I can make a whole video on that, honestly, and it'll go way off topic. But, I'm sorry, excuse me. But just let me say this. My hate for Flavio is so strong that I ended up making my own 2P Romano original character just to get like that image out of my head. And like, have a 2P Romano I can actually roleplay and enjoy for myself, for instance, like when Romano is taken as a character in a roleplay group. there's this one that I have, he likes cats, he likes to cook, he likes to smoke, he likes to drink, he likes to flirt with women. But like, at the same time, he's quirky. He likes superheroes. He likes to like collect whatever, and he watches My Little Pony, okay? He's egotistical. He will like grind your gears of those around him. And like the thing is, that's my canon for him. And I think that's what's great about the two Ps in general of the fandom. Two Ps can be anything. Two Ps is like it's an OC. Not all two Ps have to be the same. So like, yeah, do I stay like hate Flavio? Yeah, I do. Like, will I avoid him like with all my costs? Like, yeah, I will. But like Flavio's not canon. And in this game, he's not outright Flavio, like the fandom Flavio that I've seen portrayed. It's not my character portrayal, no, of course not. But like, it doesn't seem to be the overly flashy. We'll walk down the road in like pink sunglasses and a fur coat Flavio that I've seen either. The 2P Romano in this game is actually somewhere more in the middle between the two, and it's great. I love it. I love it so much. And the way he says darlings, and he has blonde hair, those comes from Flavio, I feel that. But like, he's also very well balanced to the point that he doesn't bother me with him being like openly, how do I put this? Like, openly flaunting and like showing off. And like his backstory with his arc with Spain is in this game is still one of my favorite parts of the game. Like, I had a blast playing that. His character was great. And like his dialogue was like one of the things I remember like as the core part of the game for me personally. Learning to accept with one and like having to work alongside with that is like a great message in my opinion. And it worked really well with 2P Romano's status in this game. The backstory, it really squeezed at me. It was painful. That is all. I love it. Hurt me more. But so like with that gone, like now with like the main characters aside, like the main ones I wanted to talk about, I also want to talk about some of the side characters in this game, the cameos. Um, there was the phone group, which was Romania, Norway, Austria, Hungary, and Prussia. And then there was the micronations who joined in like little ways into the game, like Seborg and Sealand. Like the other than like the backstory bits with them like Axis and allies, pretty much like the whole cast of the game. Because other than that, we have Rome, we have Belgium, but like they're just kind of there, to be honest with you. And like it's a good number. It's not the characters are not too crowded. Like there's like it's not too, but it's also not too focused on like certain characters to the point that you just kind of forget the other ones exist. I feel some games does kind of do that sometimes, and it's kind of sad. And I feel like this game actually balanced out a good number of characters. Like they knew who to keep into the game and who to keep out. Like who to only keep on the phone, who to only keep in the backstory, etc. So it's not overly crowded in one place at one time. The next I want to talk about for characters is the OC enemies, which sadly it is a negative for me. I'm sorry. Not because I'm against OC as enemies, but because like they're not fleshed out enough for me personally. Even though it was explained that they want the usual, hey, I want the power deal, which there really wasn't else much to it. I think I just wanted something a little more interesting, like a signature something, like other than, they're ninjas, I guess, is what I saw. Because maybe I think that's more because I love the game so much and I wanted it to be a bigger, grander story. But it's probably not meant for that. So like, while it's a negative for me personally, these OCs, it might not just be a problem for some who just want to play like casual games, and there's nothing wrong with that. Next, I want to talk about the gameplay and like the pacing of this game. The gameplay is good. The pacing, we'll talk about that. First, the gameplay. The map is very easily to learn, and like I think most people who can learn it eventually while playing through, it's not that hard to remember at all. I'm also like very happy that there was not like very little mazes. Only one maybe in like the forest and the backstories, but it wasn't that really complicated or long, and like because no enemies were around really, so it wasn't really stressful as it could have been. And, I had that mistake of making my own games, putting too many enemies in a maze, and like, I feel so sorry still. But so it wasn't a negative for me at all. Not to mention there was like so many places to stock up on items and set like in these mazes, which is great. Which brings me to my next point. There's a lot of looting points in this game. There are so many items you can collect as long as you look. So many items you can actually grab and get from the map. And like as a looter, as someone who likes to like mass click everything, it's a lot of fun to like collect these items. And it does help with those who use a lot of items and like forget to purchase them. They do have the chance to stock up as long as they click some things. But like because of that, I feel this game does not have a place where the player can actually just sit down, heal their characters without the cost of items through the game. There are so many beds. There's so many resty points where you think they would just sit down, heal up, but it doesn't offer that option. And for people who don't loot in the games, for people who just want to speed through the game, get through all the fights, not me personally, but people who just want to like, play multiple games at once and say, okay, this was this was that. I think this would be tough for them. Um because there's no option for a quick heal. And one needs to strategize when and like think which items they'll be using when they do come up come upon like a store, because for me personally it was a lot of tomatoes and beers. But to other people who play the game differently, they'll need to like actually think and like balance out their items, which it can be a hassle, I guess, if you don't just because that's the only choice they have to heal. Now, something that grinded me personally playing this game is the search for the key and items, because there's not a single hint. I had to go and look at like other videos of doing let's plays of this game just to see where these items are, where the keys are, so like I wouldn't spend my whole video time clicking on every item in every room and like not moving the story at all. I could have cut all those scenes out and such when I was playing and like making the video, but then I would lose like when it was a good time to actually stop the video recording before it was like way too long or way too short. It was a bit of a hassle. And like so like something like a riddle, a hint maybe in general, pointing to like whatever room that said item would be, would have been greatly appreciated, especially for a less player. Another thing that was a personal negative for me was like the rush pacing towards the end of the game. I felt after I got England, the game felt so rushed. Right after you get England at your side, it's Canada, Russia, America. It's bam, bam, bam. And as somebody who's enjoying the game, as somebody who just wanted to keep playing and keep enjoying the game as long as I could, it was a little saddening. And while I was I already had a feeling that like Germany was going to be the last anyway, but like the rush of the characters just reminded me, yeah, this game is about to be over. And I wanted a little more. I wanted more plot with these characters who they all just joined at once. Like, I think the biggest one for me is America and Canada. They were given a chance to talk in the game, and like they had that little scene together, and they had the potential to like come up with so many more plots, like a trap or a temporary plot twist, or like maybe like regaining one of the characters as a 2P on the side, as on their side. Like it was threatened it could happen, but like it never did. And but like instead you just meet them, you beat them, and bam, like they're not teammates. And like as someone who wanted more content, I was like there was potential there, and it was that potential, that chance wasn't taken, and it was a little saddening. The last part I want to talk about in terms of the negative points in this game for my personal view is just, oh my god, China. Oh my god, China. More like specifically like China's scene. The China scene is just okay. Here's the thing: you need to save the game. You need to battle him. You have to actually beat him in the battle, without, in my case, without using too many items. And as soon as you finish battling him, you had to go and find a gem that's hidden in one of the several statues around him. And like when you pick one statue, he wouldn't give you enough time to like pick another because like China will come at you like soon as you pick one, and it's like game over. I would have liked it more if China was either slower or it would have been like a timer thing, like it was for America. Like I had to win against China 7 times, 7 whole times, until I finally got the statue. And by that point, I was just tired with him. I wanted him gone. I did not care for him. It's like maybe something different that there would have like worked better, at least for me. Now, ending like nearing the end of the review, I do want to talk about a few of my experiences with the game overall that improved my impression of it greatly. First of all, I want to talk about the art. The art is gorgeous. The slideshow animation fade and fade outs were like, they were great. The line art was beautiful. The coloring was like candy to my eyes. I loved it so much. The trailer, oh my god, there was a whole trailer that this game had for itself. I don't know how many times I've watched it. I was just in awe. And the collectible character cards that you can get through this game is amazing. Each one of them was unique and like very well drawn, and I got so excited each time it said I got a new one to just like look at it and just stare at it and be like, ooh, this is so pretty. The second I want to talk about is the music. The music choices they were not original, no, but the music choices in these games were pretty, and it was fun to go through like the BGMs of other choices by clicking through the piano. So like the music was it was okay. It was, solid A. The last I want to talk about is the creator herself, Lilica. I hope I'm saying that right, by the way. I know this is late in the review to be saying that, but I hope I'm saying that right. Lilica. I spoke with the creator many times throughout making this Let's Play videos of her game, and she was very nice. Like, it really was a pleasure to talk to her. She's really easy to joke with, and it made my experience just that much more great when I was playing the game and being able to joke about it with her. And I look forward to her next game, like Heta Rebirth. I'm really excited to see what that would be about. I'm totally going to check that one out when it comes out. Overall, I really recommend this game, Hetaipseity. If I had to rate it, it'll probably be maybe 7 or 8 or so out of 10, with like the points taken off from like the rush pacing and, oh my god, China. Cause oh my god, I was like, I was nearly pulling my hair out with that thing. But thank you very much for listening to me ramble on about this review, and like, please check out the game for yourself if you haven't yet. It's really good. It's worth your time. And I'll see you for my next Hetagame playthrough. And yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.